Hello, everyone. It's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and welcome to Wasteland Talks, my weekly talk show where I talk about whatever the hell I want. And this week's segment, we're jumping into my segment, My Favorite Films, and I'm joined by one of my best friends, Haley. Thank you so much for coming on and talking movies with me.
I always just need an excuse. You always
There you
give
go.
me one.
We don't need a whole lot of excuses to talk movies with each other, but this at least gets us a time to hop on Zoom and talk about Haley's favorite movies. So let's get started with a few honorable mentions that you might have before we get into your top 10.
Yeah, thank you, Shane, for humoring me here. Because, I don't have the same problem that Shane has. I've not seen every movie that has ever existed, but it's still very difficult to hone in on your top 10. And so I'll list some honorable mentions, and I'm also gonna get into then, I guess, a little bit about like how I came up with this list.
Okay.
It's a fun exercise, but it was a bit of a challenge when I really like sat down and thought about it. Anyway, so a couple things that were like on the list, but then I was just like, I only have 10.
Yep.
Were first of all, The Emperor's New Groove, which is to me one of the funniest movies that
Mhm.
I will never get tired of it. Um, and that actually like relates to one of my main criteria for this, from the ones that did make it in my top 10, which were I have to have seen it multiple times.
Okay.
Like it's not on the top 10 if I haven't seen it
Mhm.
multiple times.
Yeah.
Um, I've had to have seen it and then been like, I'm coming back to this. Now, The Emperor's New Groove, I've seen that a billion times. But only 10. Um, then the next one is The Matrix, the first one.
Nice.
Again, would have loved to have it on there, just I couldn't. But again, that sort of leads me into another rationale point, which was a movie that I like talking about.
Mhm.
Um, something that's like just gets you, and
Yeah.
most of the movies in my top 10, I would say I have strong feelings about them.
Mhm.
And then honorable mentions Get Out and Us. Basically, the Jordan Peele
Yeah.
trilogy, like all of those movies are so good. I would like to have put them on there, but I couldn't even choose between the three, to
Yeah.
be honest. Because I like all of them. I will fight people about Us and Nope because I think those are great movies. And that was my other criteria is movies that I've pressured other people to watch because I like them so much. So those are
I
some
know at
honorable
least I know at least one movie that I watched for the first time because of you is definitely going to be
and
on your list. Um,
exactly.
can confirm. But Emperor's New Groove, so much fun. Kronk is probably one of my favorite supporting characters just in any animated movie because Patrick Warburton's just perfect.
He
Just like,
is.
uh, this is this is really gonna go. And obviously the Matrix, which Haley knows Matt. Matt and I have been arguing about the Matrix and T2 Judgment Day for the past like I think it legitimately might be 10 years at this point. Uh we've been arguing which one's better. So
What?
yes, it's been an on and off argument for 10 years. Which one is the best sci-fi action movie of all time, The Matrix or T2 Judgment Day? And yes, Matt's the one that's arguing The Matrix because I love the Terminator a lot. But and
Oh, I'm
also,
with Matt on this one, but okay.
oh, I kind of figured. So and then oh, I love the Jordan Peele films, and I feel like Us gets a lot of crap for like the twist not making sense. And I'm just like, okay.
Think
It's just like
harder.
but it's just like I quote that it's like if I ever hear the word tethered, the first thing I think of is us like we are the tethered. Or, who are you? We are Americans. It just gets me every time. And also I got five on it is 100% a song that I listen to because of that movie. And then
Soundtrack quality too. That's an
yeah.
important, like that
Mhm.
factors into some of these.
Oh, and I really look forward to rewatching Nope again for sure. And Get Out's just there's not a huge argument that you have to make for Get Out at this point. So, but those are some great honorable mentions for sure. But are you ready to count this down, Haley?
I certainly am. And
Let's
so
start with number 10.
number 10. Okay, so Shane knows this very well. Anyone who's ever heard me talk also probably knows this. I like scary movies. I've seen
Yes.
a lot of them. And so when it came to making this list, I'm not saying that these 10 movies are the best movie. Like, I'm not arguing these are the best movies ever made. These are my top movies. And I wanted
Yes.
the different things that I like about movies to be represented. So I had to have a scary movie.
Yes.
Generally, scary movies are not the best movies out there. I recognize that. So that's why it's number 10. Um, but I went with Our House because, one, I think it's a fabulous movie. Um, but I also really think, a good scary movie should stick with you. I mean, it should be scary, which that movie was.
Yes.
Um,
Yes, I can confirm.
like definitely was like legitimately quite scary. Um, but more than that, like there's a lot of like emotional horror that goes on, but it's very, purposeful. And the takeaway from that movie is just really, really powerful. It lingered with me for a long time. So even though it's not the scariest movie I've ever seen, it's just like a really effective movie. I also work in immigration, so like the themes around that were really, I think, important. Um, just to get people in that headspace, but also just to like humanize these people. Like, no, it's not just your typical like refugee story where they've never done anything wrong. Like, those people are allowed to have demons too. And maybe that's like something that we kind of have to accept. But I think the Babadook gets a lot of credit for, this being about like dealing with your trauma and accept it. And like this movie is also that, but I would almost argue it's clearer. Like I don't know. I think sometimes the Babadook thing is like maybe I don't want to say lost on people, but I think sometimes people don't fully get it right away. Whereas this one I think is like much more clear in sending a similar message. And it's a really, really powerful message.
This movie, which was released on Netflix, I remember, it just, oh my God. The pulling
Hmm.
sequence got me so bad. And then once you realize what this is really about and what's haunting them, just hits on a whole entire different level.
Hmm.
It's a fascinating film. And that was like, that was it during COVID, right? That released on Netflix, I'm pretty sure.
That seems right. Yeah. Because it was pretty recent.
So definitely would recommend it. Also, Haley's one of my few scary movie buddies. So which I appreciate. So 100% have to have something represented on there. And
For
now
sure.
number 9.
Okay, number 9, just like I needed to have a scary movie, I personally felt like I needed to have a Shyamalan movie
There you
on
go.
here. And it's hard to choose, but I'm a really big fan of Unbreakable. It
Mhm.
was kind of between Devil and Unbreakable, to be honest. I really liked Devil. Again, scary movie, and I think that was a great scary movie. But Unbreakable is just, it's so understated the whole time. And like, I just love how Shyamalan isn't known for being like
Subtle.
super subtle with things. And he does such a good job with that. Like
Mm.
it's this really like archetypal thing, but it's sort of like what it's before other movies tried to like humanize the hero. This was like
Yes.
one of those very early like existential things about like the unbreakable man. And
Yep.
I don't even like, I mean, I watch superhero movies, but I'm not that into them. But this is like the kind of thing I can get behind.
Yep.
And I was pretty young when I saw it the first time, and I was just really moved by it, not just because of it being about the hero, but about that the essential relationship between the hero and the villain and how like yeah, it's just a masterpiece. I don't know. I don't know what else to say.
There's a reason why people thought Shyamalan was going to be the next Steven Spielberg. And it's because of Sixth Sense, it's because of Unbreakable. Unbreakable is one of the most thought-provoking and nuanced superhero films ever made.
Yeah.
And it was made for like no money and really shot in a way that was impressive. And that's one of the things that I appreciate about Shyamalan is he could do a lot with a little.
Mm-hmm. So
And
true.
this is such a great performance by Bruce Willis. I feel for his family and that
Mm-hmm.
whole dynamic. Him and Robin Wright are fantastic. And then Samuel L. Jackson as
Yeah.
Elijah Price, Mr. Glass. It's just that whole entire thing and like that ending just
Right.
hits like a sledgehammer. And oh, this is gonna get me upset because of Glass.
I
Uh,
know. Let's just not even talk about it. Let's just not even talk. I pretend it doesn't happen. I've never seen it. It to me, it doesn't exist.
there's so much potential. I just distinctly remember watching Split in the theater for the
Yeah.
first time and being the only one of the four people that I was there with who know what that was hinting at the end. I'm just like, I lost it. I was so excited, but and it's because there's so much potential to this story, and like this story could have just ended.
I
Like
would
it
have
could have
preferred that. I thought it was so perfect. Just
the
it
way
really
that it
was like this perfect
the
journey.
way it turned out. Probably they should have just left it, but it's just such a great story, and it's so perfectly built up, and every reveal feels so satisfying. It's just
Mhm.
Shyamalan really is a talented filmmaker. And
Yeah.
his films are a lot more imperfect now. And it's just like there's some things that I really love about them, and some things I'm just like, oh my God, like why'd you cast your daughter to have such a big role in the third act of Trap? But like those kinds of things, like this felt like it all came together in such a special kind of way.
Hmm.
Yeah, love Unbreakable. I have my DVD up there somewhere. But yeah, so it's number 8.
Okay, so number eight, I wanted a scary movie. I needed a Shyamalan. People love romance movies. I don't.
Mm.
I do not
Yep,
like romance movies. There's only one movie I would consider to be like a proper love story that I can never get enough of, and that is Moonrise Kingdom. So that's my Wes Anderson pick. Again, very
there you go.
difficult to choose only one, but I have always I love Moonrise Kingdom, and I think I love it even more because people hate on it. I get defensive about it. I think it's like that love. And again, coming from someone who's like not into it, right? Like I don't watch movies that are purely about romance, but this is like about two kids who no one likes and
No.
they love each other and like that is just there's something so pure and like beautiful about it.
Mm,
They are awkward, they are like you kind of get why no one likes them, but at the same time they like through their love with each other become better. And
mm,
I get that's probably what a lot of love stories are supposed to be, but this it's played out in this wonderfully quirky Wes Anderson way, which I already love. And yeah, just great acting from a bunch of kids, which I don't, it's just such a delightful movie. Like it makes
yeah.
me so happy.
It's I Jared Gilman and Kara Hayward are so good as Sam and Susie. Their dynamic is perfect. I love watching them have their little adventure. And then all the idiot adults
Yeah.
on this island, which also I sense a trend here so far, Haley. Miss I'm a big Bruce Willis fan. Um
That's so true. That is actually a really good point. Look,
There you
he's
go.
just in great movies. What can we
Which
say?
that's the thing. Like this is one of the this and Looper are
Mm.
like the last two like really great performances I feel like he gave. And there's
Yeah.
just something so vulnerable and sweet about this like simple office like policeman on this island
Oh
and
yeah.
like Edward Norton and his ineptness leading this scout troop and just the very toxic and awkward bishop marriage between Frances McDormand and Bill Murray.
Bill Murray in
And
this movie, honestly, for me, steals the show a little bit at moments. Like
yes,
he's just such a dad.
yes. And I can't get enough of Tilda Swinton going up to
Oh,
people
I
like,
know.
I'm social services. She doesn't have a name. She's just social
Nope.
services. And just the humor about it. Just there's so many great things about it. And in a world, if there were no Grand Budapest Hotel, this would probably still be my favorite Wes Anderson movie. But there is
Mm.
Grand Budapest Hotel, so that will be my favorite one. But like, I
Respect
love
it.
Wes Anderson, and I'm going to be starting my series for him in January for my one show, which
So we'll talk a lot
Haley's,
about this.
yes, Haley will be on for that episode. So no, this is just a gem. I love Wes Anderson. I have my three Wes Anderson posters up on my wall right now. But yeah, this is a special one. And I feel like this is one that gets overlooked a lot at this point too. So
There you go. It's on the list. It will probably
it's
always be on the list.
there you go. Number seven.
Okay, number seven, another movie that makes me extremely happy. And it was kind of like Emperor's New Groove was like it was that or Rango. But I chose Rango. I love Rango. I love it. I do force it on people. I've watched it so many times. I will keep watching it. It's just like, I mean, in the way that The Emperor's New Groove is funny, this movie's funny, but it's also like about so much stuff.
Yeah.
It's
This
like,
is literally Chinatown for kids,
yeah, and
which is crazy.
but it's also not for children. Like there is a lot
No,
going, it's
actually,
not for
no, it's
children
not.
at all, which I also love about it. It's just such a, again, like something that makes me like feel so much. Like, I,
Mm,
yeah, it's it's like a masterpiece, and I love this kind of Western. Like
yeah,
Westerns, and the next one is also like a Western. Like these are what I want in a Western. Um,
this is a great Western too, and which is why because like Jess showed me this for the first time because she's a humongous Rango fan too.
mhm.
So see, now we got to all watch it together.
I
Uh,
will watch it anytime,
yeah,
anytime.
the fact that Nickelodeon, first of all, made this won
Unreal,
an Oscar for Best Animated Feature for this. And
as
this
they
is
should.
not for kids. It's so strange. They make in what kids movie do they make a Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas reference? Because they literally see the car.
Yeah.
They have Timothy Oliphant basically being Clint Eastwood in a fever dream where
Yes.
he has his awards, like his Oscars in the back of his golf cart.
Spirit of the West.
Spirit of the West. Which Timothy Oliphant does a great Clint Eastwood,
So
so
good.
just putting that out there. And Johnny Depp is so funny and so entertaining as Rango, but also low key Rattlesnake is one of the most terrifying villains in a movie.
There's just also like so many details in that movie. Like if you watch it a million times as I have, like there's just so much there. They thought through this world,
Mm.
like, and it's the animation is really, really good. And it's just, yeah,
And
like
grotesque. Like
I
these are
love
some
that.
ugly, ugly
Yes,
animals.
I love that. I
Yeah.
I love that. It is the Wild West. It is dirty. These
Yes.
animals should be disgusting, and they are. They're so gross. It's like hard to look at them at first, but like you also love them.
It's so important
So
to
good.
point out this is directed by Gore Verbinski, who made what The Ring and
I don't think
and
I knew that.
and the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, the first
That check
three,
tracks. Yeah.
A Cure for Wellness. So like he makes some weird movies because like in at World's End where they showed Davy Jones's locker in that weird dreamy sequence thing, that's him. That's what Gore Verbinski actually does, and he brings all that energy to Rango. This is written by John Logan, who wrote Gladiator, The Aviator, and Skyfall, which is so random that he wrote Rango too. And the fact that they have a chase with bats
Oh,
flying to
so good.
Ride of the Valkyrie, but with a banjo
Yep.
is perfection. This movie is has no business being as great as it is. The cast is insane. They have Ned Beatty, Alfred Molina, Bill Nighy, Davy Jones himself playing Rattlesnake Jake, who has a
Yeah.
machine gun for a rattle.
And he's got this little mustache that I only saw like the fifth time I saw watched it. I'm like, it's got everything.
So yes, Rango is amazing. No notes.
No notes.
Number six.
All right, so then Rango being, I would say it was my favorite Western if the newest version of True Grit didn't exist, but the newest version of True Grit
True Grit
does
doesn't
exist, and
exist.
that is my favorite Western. And that was a movie where I saw it in theaters, not really knowing anything about it or what to expect, but that made me realize I went from saying I don't like Westerns to, well, whatever that was, I like that.
Yeah,
That I
it's
like.
it's a Coen Brothers Western. That's what it is.
Exactly. The Coen brothers and like so both Rango and True Grit have like the writing is so good. Like
Mhm.
the way everyone speaks and it's just so flawlessly acted and it's just like a very again like touching story. Like I feel a lot of stuff throughout that movie. It takes you on a huge journey. The setting is beautiful, but again, people are really dirty. Like it's not like they're not like primping people. Like these are like
Mhm.
disgusting. Like you can practically smell them through the screen.
Yeah.
Um, and they're weird and they're hard to understand. And I think that feels true.
Yep. I cannot watch the original anymore after watching this. Charles Portis's novella is a really good novella. And this is so true to the novella in terms of like the language, the way that they speak. Haley Steinfeld is a star.
So good.
So good.
Amazing.
She earned that Oscar nomination for sure.
I was mad
And
that she did not win.
it was probably a hard sell at that point. Because how old was she when they filmed this?
I mean,
Because
it's hard to
Haley,
know, but she seemed young. I mean, she was playing someone who was like, what, 15 or 16?
she was 13 or 14 when they filmed this. So, because she was born in 96.
Oh, that would, yeah, that checks out.
Oh, that makes me feel some ways.
I
But also,
know.
side note, she just got engaged to NFL player Josh Allen. So good for you, Haley Steinfeld.
Good for
Um,
her.
John Wayne obviously won Best Actor for playing Rooster Cogburn, but Jeff Bridges is Rooster Cogburn. It's
He
like
is.
I just the oh my god, the way that he deals with the dialogue in this, where it's just like, was your gun loaded? What good would the gun be if it ain't loaded? Or just like, I'm usually backing up when I'm backing up, and or it's like, especially Barry Peppers, who plays Ned Pepper, when he's
Mm,
like, "That's a lot of talk from a one-eyed fat man," and he's just like, "Your hand, you son of a bitch," and just go into it. The cast is so great in this. Even like Matt Damon as LaBeef
oh, so
is
good.
so good.
So good.
Josh Brolin as Tom Chaney is so disgusting. And that when you that push close up to him when you first see him is so perfect.
Yes.
And this has an incredible collection of just random characters. The whole I do have my bear skin.
That was the like that from that point onward, I was in. Like in the theater, I'm like, I don't know what's happening anymore, but I am strapped in for the long haul.
Yeah, the little guys that go
Yeah.
it does all
I
the
was like, I
animal
love it.
voices
I love it. That guy's
and
insane.
everything.
This random band of miscreants you've got, that's probably like people are probably nuts out there.
Yeah,
I believe that.
just the cast from top to bottom is incredible. And you don't have to sell me on a Coen Brothers movie, seeing as they're my
Right.
favorite filmmakers. And
Yeah.
this is Jess's favorite movie. So
See,
yes,
Jess and I are we're on the same page like that.
yeah. So True Grit by the Coen Brothers has appeared on both top 10 lists so far that I've done for this segment on my
I
talk
love
show.
that.
So keeping that streak up. It's just impressive. Jess and I will be doing this for the Wasteland retrospective for Jess's birthday month for January. So there you go. So keep tuned for that. Now we're in the top five. What's your number five, Haley?
Yes. All right. Well, Shane, you probably knew this was going to show up at some point, and it has. So I this is the most recent release on my list. Um, but ever since seeing Poor Things, I have seen it multiple
Mm.
times. Shane thankfully heard my I've never like asked Shane outright for a present. We give each other gifts for Christmas and stuff. I was like, I want Poor Things.
And I gave her poor thing. So there you
And
go.
so I've seen it like I saw it in the theater
Yeah.
with my dad, by the way. Fun fact. Not
Interesting.
normally what people would like recommend for that.
You are not the only person to bring their parents to a Yorgos Lanthimos film. Because my mom invited herself to Killing of a Sacred Deer. Um,
That's a whole other segment.
when
Unpacking,
yes, unpacking that.
yeah. But luckily, my dad's very cool, and we both loved the movie. But then I was like, I this movie, it's obviously the acting is amazing. Obviously, the music is crazy. Obviously, the visuals are crazy. Like everything, yeah, whatever. But this movie also like it got me thinking just about like feminism and things that like I cared about, especially in grad school, where I was like, I would, I used to do research on cultural studies topics and stuff, and I like broke out some old like essays like after
Mm.
seeing this movie. Like I was so fired up. Um, but it really is like, in addition to being like a feminist thing, it's also like a human movie. And I've spent a lot of time thinking about it. Like a lot of time thinking about it, a lot of time talking about it. Again, there are people out there who kind of like hate on it, and I feel like I've had to sort of have these moments where I'm like,
But they're wrong. Oh.
they are. They're so wrong. Like this, it's just a remarkable movie. And I really like I love movies where I go into it kind of being like, I don't really know what this is. And I leave being like, I didn't I will never see anything like that again. Like that is its own thing
Yep.
that is completely like unique and um yeah, it just like thinking about it now even I just get so like, oh, I love it. It's so good.
It's, and we had a pretty lengthy discussion about this on my channel.
Yeah, because I
Because we
couldn't
needed to.
wait.
Yeah.
Like shit.
Emma Stone's performance is one of the best performances I have seen in a long time.
Yep.
And the layers to what she had to do to perform Bella Baxter is incredible. Because every scene, something has to be slightly different because she's slowly
Hmm.
maturing.
Hmm.
And whether it's her stride or speech or something is changing scene to scene, she's incredible. And Mark Ruffalo is
So
hilarious.
I've never been like
Unhinged.
a Ruffalo guy. Like he's cool, whatever. Like I was never
Yeah,
I love him now. Like this
yeah.
movie changed everything to me. I'm like the balls you would need to have to sign on to that role and nail it like that. Like so much respect.
Bella. He it looks like he's bringing the same kind of energy to Mickey 17, that new Bong Joon-ho film that's coming out now, I think in April. It's been pushed back like three times, so hopefully
Dang.
it actually comes out in April. Willem Dafoe's great, Rami
Okay.
Youssef. Um, there's a couple other performances, just like Catherine Hunter, who runs the brothel, is
She's really good.
something. It's just the way that this deals with sexuality and the taboo. That's what Yorgos Lanthimos does. Something with Greek people, no shame, and they just go it and like tackle it. And I appreciate that about this film. It has no qualms with dealing with things that normally most people would not want to process or discuss, or watch with your mother. In my When I saw Killing of a Sacred Deer with my mother, I never thought that I'd be sitting watching a movie where Nicole Kidman gives a unenthusiastic hand job, and be sitting right next to my mom.
I never thought I'd be sitting next to my dad watching Emma Stone like shove an apple into her unmentionable regions and still walk away saying, "Yeah, that's my number five movie of all time."
There you go. Now that's something else right there. Now, number four.
All right, number four is Snatch because it was gonna be on
There we
there.
go. Knew
There
that
you
was
go. You
coming.
knew it was coming. Yeah, I told Shane before we started rolling that this is like embarrassingly high on the list, but it really does hit all of the things that I was looking for in my list. Have I seen it multiple times? I've seen it so many times. And I will continue to see it so many times. Do I force it on people? Always. That's why I've seen it so many times. If I find out that someone I care about has not seen this movie, I like set it up. I make it happen because it's important to me. I'm like, you are going to, I mean, whether you like it or not, I just think this is a movie that everyone should see. And it's like weirdly underrated. Um,
I got my
for,
snatch
you
right
know,
here.
yes. Um, and you know what? Like, it's one of those movies that is not like, honestly, the last couple times I've seen it, I'm like, there are some things in here that are not the most correct. But at the same time, truly, like, this is Guy Ritchie doing what Guy Ritchie always tries to do, but this is his magnum opus. I don't necessarily think he'll ever truly be able to top this movie. It's just from the second it begins to the second it ends, it is going 60 miles an hour. And you just have to have fun. Like you have to laugh at it and have fun with it. And if we're talking about like a quotable movie, I quote all of this movie like all the time.
There's just it's this is when you say a Guy Ritchie movie, this is the Guy Ritchie movie. Because like obviously you
Yes.
have Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels that kind of like sets that up. But
Hmm.
Snatch is like with the whole Brad Pitt, um, the whole like Dags and like his whole entire accent and him being one punch man, just going out there just decking people. Um, this is really crazy that I can't hear somebody bring up Germans without thinking of
The Germans.
Turkish, being like the Germans. Which Jason Statham is always so, I'm Jason Statham. And here, like Turkish actually has a little personality besides I'm
He's
gonna kick your
cheeky.
ass. Yes. And
That's the
like,
thing about this movie too, is like no one is like being like a good person at all. There's no
no,
like hero's arc or
no.
anything. Like someone actually I was having a conversation with somebody and they recently said like every time I watch a movie, I feel like it all comes back to this like typical hero's arc. But thinking about Snatch, no, that is not no. No one
Nobody's a good
starts
person.
good, no one ends good. Everyone's just like tripping over each other and all trying to be their degenerate selves and you love them anyway. It is just so much fun. I love all their weird nicknames too.
That you mean like Bullet Tooth Tony,
Who's
Vinnie
my
Jones?
fave?
Turkish, obviously. Ewan Bremer, mullet.
Yep.
Benicio del Toro's Frankie Four Fingers.
You got Doug the Head. You got
Alan Ford's Bricktop, who is
Bricktop is so good.
so good.
And he's like
So
not
good
in
in
a
this.
lot of stuff. He's not even like a famous actor, but he
No,
kills it.
he's so good in this movie that he makes you think that you've seen him in a whole bunch of other things.
Like, where's
I'm
this
just like,
man hiding?
just bad boy Lincoln.
Gorgeous
Uh,
George.
it's just there's so many great characters, and I feel like the only movie in the past like 15 years that Guy Ritchie has made that came close to this is probably The Gentleman. Like
Yes.
really capturing that feeling of like, God, just Hugh Grant and Colin Farrell were meant to be in a Guy Ritchie movie, playing
Yeah.
just Fletcher and Coach. It's just like, oh come on, you got to make it sharp. You got to cook me with it. And Colin Farrell in his tracksuits. It just Snatch is such a delight from start to finish. And it's one of those kind of movies like you have to be paying attention to make sure that you pick up on all the moving pieces because this is a whole bunch of shenanigans and a whole
Yes.
bunch of storylines. But well, we've made it into your top three. So what's number
Yes.
three?
All right. So number three is Lord of the Rings Two Towers. Uh, I'm just gonna say right now, I it would have been very easy for me to say one, two, three are the three Lord of the Rings movies.
Yes,
I I could
I
have
do
done that.
regularly. Uh,
Yeah, yeah. But I decided like, okay, I'm gonna put one in there and like I'm picking my favorite.
yep.
I don't like I wouldn't fight someone on this. I think that there is a legitimate argument to be made that any one of the three could be the best of the three.
Yep.
I personally just I just get I feel some type of way about like that like the Rohan battle
Mhm.
and I just I love that movie. I love them all so much, but this is it feels very like it's got all the good stuff in it.
Yep. Well, and you don't have setup.
Right. They just
You're
dive straight in.
you're diving right in. You get that amazing prologue
hmm
of Gandalf fighting the Balrog, which
hmm
and also one of the most gorgeous looking shots in the history of movies, with that wide shot of the
Yeah.
Balrog and him just falling slowly into that cavern. Coolest thing ever. Um, there's so many great moments from this. The whole Battle of Helm's Deep
Right.
is arguably the best battle scene in the history of cinema.
Yep.
There's humor about it, and with the whole counting or the you're gonna have to toss me.
I'm like laughing and crying when I watch it, which usually I do one and then the other, but no, I'm literally laughing and crying at the same time.
And the memes. Because like I
So
just rewatched all three of them on my birthday this year. And just the and so it begins.
I say that
I've said that meme to so many people.
I say it like 18 times a year, like for whatever reason. Like I just, yeah, so quotable. I don't
The
have to force people to watch it because, like,
it's Lord of the Rings.
but when I encounter people, I'm like, you gotta watch it.
Gotta watch it. And like the great additions of King Théoden,
hmm
Bernard Hill's so great.
hmm
Oh God, Brad Dourif as Grima is
hmm
so disgusting, but he's so good. We get Gollum, like
Yes.
Smeagol in this, and Andy Serkis absolutely killing it.
hmm
Poor Faramir.
I know.
That
We
just
get to
becomes
know
even
him.
more poor Faramir by the
Yeah.
time you get to the third one. Um, my second favorite scene in the history of cinema is the March of the Inns.
Oh yeah.
I get
That's really what tips it for me.
goosebumps.
I love the Ents. I love them. Like even as a kid, I just couldn't get enough of that whole thing.
I love that John Reese Davies is pulling double duty as Gimli and Treebeard. And just
It
the
works.
tree. I am no tree, my eminence. And the whole thing is like, we have decided you are not orc spies. That's it. But the second he sees the desolation of those trees and he lets out that roar and they all start coming out of the woods, I'm just like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm so ready. And there's the last ride of the Rohirrim as they're like just barreling through, and then Gandalf is there, and they all call her charging down. Oh my God, I'm getting goosebumps to talk about this.
I get emotional just thinking about it. Yeah, and I'm a big soundtrack person, as I've probably discussed multiple times
Yep.
already, but
There's so many
what
great
even
tracks. Howard Shore made one of the most incredible soundtracks in the history of cinema with Lord of the Rings, and there's like 20 different separate themes
they're
that are all
all
great.
good. Yeah, they're all so good. And it all yeah, exactly. So yeah, I
Incredible.
I mean we could probably just talk about that the whole time, but
Yep. Well,
that's
we got two more,
we got two
and they're
more.
not Lord of the Rings.
They are
So what's
not.
number two?
For the sake of variety.
Yeah.
Okay, so number two is my adult favorite movie of all
Okay.
time, which is Memento. And you know that about me.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yes.
like it again, like with I've said this with a bunch of other things, like, these great directors who have been featured on my list, like it's hard to choose, but Memento for me is like, yes, I get that um there are other movies that have come since that people might like more, but
Mhm.
I like for me it started with Memento and it's always been Memento.
Yep.
Every time I see it, I pick up something else. I love the audacity of what it sets out to achieve. But again, like I think we said this about Unbreakable, not a big budget. Like there you didn't have to do a whole lot, like, and yet like the budget to effectiveness ratio is out of this world.
Mm.
The idea is perplexing and it stays with you and it's just so well executed that I mean, my husband Brandon and I will argue about Tenet, but the thing that makes me so mad about Tenet is that he already did the perfect thing with Memento. He did it perfect. There's no reason to have to go and bungle it, like get back into that can of worms with the backwards and the forwards. You Years and years ago, Nolan, you did
You
Memento and
did
it was
this.
perfect. I think it's perfect. Like I honestly don't have I don't think there's any loose ends. It's a really like and then the end still like really gets you. Um
Or the middle,
right, right.
which I watched this in a cinema class in high school for the first time. And it blew my mind, blew
Mhm.
16-year-old Shane's mind watching this
Yeah.
movie. And just Guy Pearce is incredible. Carrie
Hmm.
Ann Moss, Joey Pants, Joe Pantoliano, are just so good. But Christopher Nolan's the star of this. The
Right.
the the idea to tell a film in forward and reverse order and meeting in the middle, which the things moving forward are in black and white, the scenes going backwards are in color, and just
Yep.
all of these different layers. And you never really understand what's real or not until you get to the middle. And it's
Hmm.
such a fascinating thing. And just even like the small performances from like Stephen Tobolewsky, who's remember Sammy Jenkins?
Yeah.
Remember Sammy Jenkins?
Remember Sammy?
And there's just like these little glimmers of um just flashes of hints of what's really going on. This is the puzzle box that
Mm,
Christopher Nolan created and has done so many times. And I'm a huge Nolan fan, and
yeah.
just whether it's this or the Prestige, and just sitting there getting your mind blown by what's going on the screen is so incredible. But yes, I knew this one would also be on your list. So
Yeah, I mean
But
he takes us all over the place in his movies and he has these gigantic budgets nowadays. And look, I love
yep,
Interstellar. I love Inception. Like all those movies are amazing. They are. But Memento did as much to my brain with like $50. Like it's just and it's not like they
with
needed
$5.
like it wasn't about it was pure concept like
Yep.
all raw just the idea and I watched it by myself the first time kind of like it was on Netflix like early Netflix when I barely even like my parents had it and I just sort of went down in the basement by myself as a teenager and watched it and I remember at the end being like looking around and being like no one else is here. Like, now what do I do? I need to
Yeah,
talk about this. I need to like think about it. So I've again forced a lot of people to see it. Um, I've revisited it because it's just a great example of like what a great movie can be.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But what movie could be greater? And
There's only
hey,
one.
what is your number one?
My number one is Lion King
Oh,
because Memento was my favorite movie as an adult, but Lion King was like the movie that made me love movies.
mhm,
I have early memories
mhm,
of being this tiny child and learning how to use the VCR so that I could take my slide in the Lion King and press play so I could watch it myself.
mhm,
And I also that is the first movie where I remember being moved. Like
mhm.
the music is there's just nothing better. It is
Yep.
in my mind the best soundtrack that has ever been. Especially like obviously there are the cutesy songs, but I mean like the beautiful music in it. Um and being like early elementary school. Like I think I was probably like between 5, 6, 7 years old and like being moved to tears when Simba goes on Pride Rock. And it's like those were very adult emotions that
Mhm.
I was feeling. And ever since then, all the other movies I watch, I'm like chasing that high, you know? Like
Yeah.
if a movie can make me feel even close to that, it's a good movie. But Lion King is where it all started for me.
Mhm. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people our age have that Disney movie that was like their movie. Beauty
Hmm.
and the Beast was mine.
Hmm.
I will always love Beauty and the Beast.
Hmm.
And this between Hans Zimmer's music and Elton John's songs, just incredible. The fact that Elton John would joke in concerts, just like, and I won an Oscar for saying when I was a young warthog. And it
It does
just,
slap though.
yeah. And Be Prepared is God tier Disney villain song. It just,
100%.
it just is. And Nazi hyenas, goose stepping hyenas, and everything. And just James Earl Jones gives one of the most iconic vocal performances ever in any animated movie ever as Mufasa.
Oh yeah.
And like Jeremy Irons, Matthew Broderick, Whoopi Goldberg, Rowan Atkinson. There's just so many great performances. Robert Guillaume as Rafiki. And
Rafiki is like
hmm,
he's the best. He's
yep,
the best. I love how like unhinged he is, but he's also like this wise, comforting character who like gives you the warm and fuzzies, but also makes you laugh. And
yeah,
I love, I have these very like deep rooted feelings about that whole movie, but Rafiki especially, like as an adult, I hear his voice, you know, like
yep. And
oh,
like Timon and Pumbaa, some of the best
they're cute too.
supporting characters in an animated movie. Nathan Lane is so good. It's just top to bottom. It's just and it's lean. This is an hour and 25-minute movie.
Yeah.
And what they're able to accomplish with everything and just seeing Scar kill Mufasa. And then, oh God, Simba finding him. If you can sit through that just completely stone faced, um,
Literally.
and this is based off of Hamlet, which is nuts.
Hmm.
Throw that added layer into it. But no, Lion King is iconic. It is certainly is like that's the peak of that Disney Renaissance in the late 80s into the 90s. But and that is
Absolutely.
your list.
That is my
Haley,
list.
thank you so much for coming on and talking all your favorite movies with me.
Thank you for giving me a chance to go down memory lane. I definitely feel like now that I've had gone through this exercise, I'm gonna be going back and watching some of the ones that I haven't seen in a while. Highly recommend every single one to anyone who's watching who has not seen any of these. I think most of them are pretty popular, but if you haven't seen them, you should.
Absolutely. And maybe we'll watch some of them together. But thank all of you out there for always tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.